Okay, you already know who it is. OsirisLourde, the Lord loves you. Follow me on all my socials at TheLourdeLovesYou. That's on Instagram. The Lord loves you on Twitch. OsirisLourde on Twitter. And today, you already know I got something YuGiOh related for you guys. It's not gonna be any DuelLinks stuff. It's not gonna be any Master Duel stuff. This is actually gonna be something really interesting that's geared towards the anime. So tune in. Well, I ain't going nowhere. So anyway, we're about to watch some stuff. It's actually pretty interesting. I stumbled across it. It's what was changed in the United States version of YuGiOh. So in United States, when on the TV there's children watching, so they like to keep all the nudity and stuff like that out. Not to spoil it, but you're gonna see some harpy ladies. You're gonna see some stuff to do with cards changing, like Monster Reborn. It's actually an Ankh in the Japanese version. So without further ado, we're gonna get into it. So this channel is called Censored Gaming, and the video is How for Kids Censored Yu-Gi-Oh! Episode 1 to 3. Watch it now.
Welcome to part 1 of Censored Gaming's video series, taking a look at how Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters was censored in the US by English localizers for kids' entertainment. There are many changes between the Japanese and the English versions, and whilst it will be great to be able to go through them all, as there are so many, this series will be focusing on the ones that are censorship in nature. Censorship being defined as changes that were made for moral related reasons, such as due to wanting to target a younger audience. But with that out of the way, let's kick things off with the first ever episode, which is titled The Terrifying Blue Eyes White Dragon over in Japan. This episode features Yugi's debut battle with Kaiba, which he gets coerced into following his grandpa being defeated and sent to hospital due to Kaiba's new advanced 3D battle system. The fact that the monsters and attacks appear on the field in a dramatic fashion causes his grandpa to collapse from shock. In Japan though, Kaiba will taunt Yugi, saying that the old man is dying. This was removed in the 4Kids version so that his grandpa is just called weak. Next up is a Series Y change that has been made to Yugi's signature card, the Dark Magician. Occult references are a big source of censorship to the Yu-Gi-Oh! Franchise, and it is this reason why the Dark Magician was renamed in the English release from its Japanese name of the Black Magician. References to Black Magic being seen as too taboo for Western shores. Normally when the Dark Magician attacks in the Japanese version, his attack name will be called Black Magic too.
That's fire.
The attack name was completely removed in the English release with no substitute being given. Occult references are also the reason for our next change, which is a Series Y change that's been made to Exodia. In the Japanese version, the card designs will show triangular objects around the border, the intention being that when the cards are combined into one, a pentagram will be displayed. 4Kids changed this to a spellbinding circle.
Not mad at that, that looks
Changes
fire.
were also made to the graphics when Exodia is summoned to the field. In Japan, a pentagram will be displayed, whereas in the English version, this was obscured with a lot more lines. And lastly, for episode 1 is a change made to Yami Yugi's Mind Crush special power, an ability that's not really mentioned in the dub, but plays a big storyline.
When I first seen the Mind Crush thing, I was like, what? I'm like, how can he just wave his hand out like this? Take all he basically killed them, bruh. He killed them.
The Millennium items, such as Yugi's Millennium Puzzle, are able to inflict supernatural punishments to people who either lose or cheat in a shadow game. Mind Crush is the name for one of Yami Yugi's punishments, and whilst it can allow him to kill his opponent, it can also be used for other purposes, like is seen in this episode. In the Japanese version, Yami Yugi uses his Mind Crush on Kaiba to seal away the evil in his heart. This is a reference to the manga, where instead of just sealing away the evil, Kaiba's heart is shattered into pieces and turned into a puzzle, sending him into a coma. In the English version, there is no mention of any of this. Yugi just tells him to open his mind.
Yo, Yugi sends Kaiba into a coma, bro. That's
Next
crazy.
up, we have episode 2, which is titled The Illusionist No Face Trap over in Japan. This episode features numerous monster names that were renamed in the English version. The first of these being Devil Dragon, which was changed to Komori Dragon in the English release, with Komori being the Japanese word for bat.
Name.
It is likely that this was renamed to remove the occult devil part of its name. This is similar to the change that was made to Summon Demon, or Summon Skull as it's known in English territories. The word demon is something that's been removed many times. For instance, in the Japanese version of the game, there is a whole monster type known as the demon type. This was renamed in English versions though to the Fiend type. Another monster type that's been changed is the Undead type, which was renamed to the Zombie type. It is likely that this was to try and distance the franchise away from mentioning death. This also sees monsters such as Episode 2's Undead Warrior renamed in the English version to Zombie Warrior instead. But to move away from that onto Episode 3, which is titled The Lost Exodia in Japan. The first censorship change made to this episode can be found when Yugi gets beaten up by a bully in a flashback scene.
Yo, that was intense when Yugi was getting smoked.
His dub removed the loud punch sound effects. Another change is made to the scene that introduces Mai. The 4Kids version on the right removed a scroll up effect that pans up her body. This was likely due to them feeling it was too suggestive in nature. Apparently 4Kids also felt that characters needing to pee was too inappropriate as well, as is shown in our next scene. Here Tristan and Taya sneak on board the boat to Julius Kingdom, and in the Japanese version, Taya is complaining about needing to go to the bathroom. In the 4Kids version though, she is complaining about being cold. In Japan, Tristan tells her to just pee in the corner, and so she gets angry and says that she's not a boy. In the English version, Tristan instead says something that's gone on to become a meme in the YuGiOh fanbase due to it seeming very random.
Hey, Taya, stay down or we're busted.
It's freezing out here, I can't sit still.
In another few hours, the sun will rise.
That's not funny, Tristan.
The English version also removed a bit of extra animation showing Taya squirming. Following that, we have a change that was made to Mai and Rex Raptor's scene inside Rex's private quarters. Using her seductive charm, she tells Rex that if she wins in the game, she gets to have his room, whilst if he wins, she will give him a kiss. This causes Rex to blush with embarrassment. In the Japanese version though, this could be seen as more suggestive in nature, as she says that she will do whatever he tells her to do. Mai's cards also got changed due to their suggestive designs. The design of Harpie Lady had extra clothing added to it, so that less skin is shown. The Harpie Lady power-up card, Cyber Shield, was also altered to remove the spikes coming out of the breastplate. It also had its name changed in the English version from the Japanese name Cyber Bondage. And then lastly, yet another change made to Mai in this episode is another removal of a pan-up shot of her body. In the 4Kids footage on the right, you can see that they replaced the shot of the lower part of her body with another shot of the cards. That's all for this time though, but part 2 will be coming soon, taking a look at the next episode and more. If this is something you're interested in, then please make sure to subscribe and leave a comment below, and until next time, thank you. Welcome to part 2 of Censored Gaming's video series, taking a look at how YuGiOh Duel Monsters was censored in the US by English localizers for kids entertainment. There are many changes between the Japanese and English versions, and whilst it will be great to be able to go through them all, as there are so many, this series will be focusing on the ones that are censorship in nature. Censorship being defined as changes that were made for moral reasons, such as due to wanting to target a younger audience. But with that out of the way, let's continue from last time with episode 4, which is titled The Insector Combo over in Japan. This episode sees Yugi and the gang arrive at the Duelist Kingdom tournament and features the first half of Yugi's duel with Weevil Underwood. This episode is actually notable in that none of its content had to be altered for Western audiences, owing to the fact that it's kept rather tame even in the Japanese version. In fact, there's also an interesting fact regarding this, and one of the monsters that Weevil plays titled Killer Needle. For some reason, the card had its name changed from its Japanese name of Killer Bee. However, as you can see, the killer part of its name was left completely intact.
That's weird.
This is the only card with killer in its name that's been left uncensored, making this a very strange occurrence. Lots of cards have had the name Killer censored since, such as Gimmick Puppet Giant Grinder, which was changed from Gimmick Puppet Giant Killer. Moving on to episode 5 though, which didn't fare as well and is titled Ultimate Perfect Form Great Moth in Japan. The first change to this episode is the shots that introduces Mai. As you can see, the 4Kids version on the right removes a scroll up across Mai's body, most likely feeling that this could be seen as too suggestive. The next shot then takes this even further and digitally alters her outfit to lengthen her skirt. It's important to bring up that this is the only shot of Mai that alters her skirt length in this episode, and in fact all other episodes in this video, as well as the episode shown in part 1, didn't alter her skirt length either. It is only in this one scene of only a few seconds length that this type of change has been made so far. For reference, here
shirt
here's
is
what
way
my
longer
skirt
in the
normally
US one.
looks like. Next up though, we have
my
a
face is
change to
blocking
some
it,
dialogue
sorry,
from
y'all.
Taya directed towards the voluptuous Mai. The Japanese dialogue has Taya throw some criticism at Mai, saying that she is nothing but pheromones. The English version changes this to a much more innocent "so there" comment. Following that, we have some other script changes to the monsters' attack names. Curse of Dragon's attack in the original Japanese version is called Hellflame, with the Japanese version even saying this in English. Religious heaven and hell references are commonly toned down in the franchise outside of Japan, and so 4Kids changed this to Dragon Flame.
Attack with Dragon Flame!
Another attack name 4Kids changed was
they didn't know what the
Great
hell he
Moss
was
Burning
saying.
Death Tornado Attack, which is again said in English. This was changed to Tornado of Doom.
Tornado of Doom!
And then lastly, Summon School's attack name was altered as well. You may recall from part 1 how Summon School had its name changed from Japan's Summon Demon, most likely due to occult demonic references. However, last time its attack name wasn't given, whereas this time it is. In Japan, Summon School uses the attack Demon's Thunderbolt, this time said in Japanese. 4Kids changed this to Lightning Strike. Episode 6 is titled Beautiful Harpie Lady in Japan, and this gives a big hint for what's in store next. This episode features Joey's battle with Mai and her Harpie Lady monsters. The Harpie Lady archetype is a big source of censorship outside of Japan due to their suggestive designs. This shows all shots showing the Harpies being changed to add more clothing. 4Kids also altered a few lines of dialogue speaking about their physical attractiveness. In Japan, Mai sets a card face down and says Harpie Lady will become more charming, beautiful and stronger for every turn that passes. In the English version, she just says that the card will help defeat Joey's next card in one turn. The face down card is Cyber Shield, and like discussed in part 1, this was renamed from its Japanese name Cyber Bondage, as well as having the spikes coming out of the breastplate removed. However, in this episode we can actually see the equipment card actually being used, and this shows Mai's Harpie being given new armor. Like the card's artwork, the armor had its spikes removed outside of Japan. Next up is a change made to Joey's monster, Demon Hunter, which is referenced by name in the Japanese version but not the English version. Demon Hunter is its Japanese name, whereas in the English real life cards and the video games it has been renamed to Koji Kosi. Like Summon School, this was most likely to remove the occult demon reference. More changes to Mai's Harpies can be seen when she plays the card Elegant Egotist, which causes Harpie Lady to be multiplied by 3. This also sees the Harpies being given a slightly different design, and again the spikes on the breastplate are removed in the dub. And then lastly, we have another case of 4Kids altering dialogue speaking about their physical attractiveness. In Japan, Mai calls the wave of new Harpies being summoned to the field the Harpie Lady Beauty combo. Like earlier, she also says that they get more charming and stronger with each passing turn. The English version makes no mention of their beauty and charm, and instead just says that she'll keep on using Elegant Egotist to double the Harpies again and again. That's all for this time though, but part 3 will be coming soon, taking a look at the next episode and more. If this is something that you're interested in, to kick things off this time, it would be good to bring up something mentioned in a previous video about Yugi's trademark monster, Dark Magician, or as he is known in Japan, Black Magician. As the video mentioned, Dark Magician didn't just get renamed, but also had his original attack name removed in the dub. The Japanese attack is called Black Magic, and like his name, this was likely changed due to references to black magic being seen as too taboo for the West. However, the video pointed out that the first time the attack was used, no substitute name is given in the English version. Whilst this is true, in later episodes the English version uses the new attack name Dark Magic Attack instead.
Dark Magic Attack!
But with that out of the way, let's continue on from last time with episode 7, Sea God Leviathan. This episode features Yugi's battle with the fisherman duelist Mako Tsunami. The episode is kicked off with the hungry gang being attracted by the smell of fish cooking over a fire. When Joey sees the food, he chases after it, and in the Japanese version he says that it must be a blessing of food from God. Religious references were usually removed by 4Kids due to them being seen as potentially offensive for Western audiences. This could be why in the English version he says we'll eat first and ask questions later instead. The shots that introduces Mako was also changed by 4Kids. As you can see in the Japanese version on the left, Mako's harpoon has a fish impaled on it with it still wiggling. The English version on the right removes all shots of the impaled fish. As mentioned, religious references were a big source of changes, and this sees several of Mako's monsters renamed in the English English version. The first of these is Devil Kraken, which was changed to Fiend Kraken in the dub. Sea God Dragon Leviathan also had its name changed due to the clear religious reference. The way this was handled is pretty interesting, as the dub renames it to Kairyu-shin, which is how the monster's name is pronounced in Japanese. This means that if a viewer was to understand Japanese, they would still hear the original name. 4Kids also toned down Mako's backstory, which is revealed to involve him as a child at sea with his father when a storm strikes their boat. The Japanese version says that his father went missing, implying that he died, and that he has to challenge the ocean for his dad and become the greatest fisherman. The English version, however, invents a different tale of events, where Mako says that a lifeboat went missing the same time as his father did, that he still must be alive. His motivation was then changed to him finding his lost father. But then lastly for this episode is something brought up in part 2, but this time being handled in a new way. Yugi's monster, Curse of Dragon, when combined with the spell card Burning Land, uses the attack Hellflame in the Japanese version, with this even being said in English. That card looks fire, no pun intended. Due to the religious reference, this was renamed to Burning Land Attack, whereas last time it was changed to Dragon Flame.
Burning Land Attack!
Next up is episode 8, The Stolen Blue Eyes White Dragon. The first act of censorship occurs early on in some dialogue said by Pegasus whilst he's overseeing the events of the tournament. In the Japanese version, Pegasus says that he is drinking the world's finest wine and eating gorgonzola cheese. 4Kids changed his fondness of wine to the world's finest fruit juice. The rest of the episode focuses on a duelist having his cards and starships stolen, with the culprit ended up being Kaiba's little brother Mokuba, who Yugi then duels.
Completely forgot
In the Japanese version, Tristan is a little more violent when he speaks about finding out who mugged the duelist, saying that when he finds him, he's going to beat him up. The English version removed this reference to violence. Violence-related edits also make up the rest of this episode's changes, with these revolving Kaiba being jumped by Pegasus' goons towards the end of the episode. When Pegasus' men approach Kaiba's door, you can see that they are holding guns in their shadow in the Japanese version, and these guns were removed by 4Kids. The men then point their guns at Kaiba in Japan, whilst in 4Kids version they simply point their finger at him. The 4Kids version on the right then also removes animation showing a gun being fired and Kaiba blocking the bullet with his briefcase. Kaiba then jumps out the window to escape, and as you can see, the 4Kids version cuts out some footage
Kaiba's the
showing
greatest.
Kaiba falling. And then lastly we have episode 9, Back from the Dead, Magical Silk Hat. This episode is again kicked off by some censorship to Pegasus' fondness of wine, with the English version on the right adding an apple to the bottle's label to disguise it as fruit juice. The rest of the episode then focuses on Yugi's battle with Ghost Kaiba, who is said to be Kaiba's spirit following his supposed death. Now, many lines were changed by 4Kids to tone down the fact that Kaiba is supposedly dead. The English version still says that Kaiba has passed away and that the duelist is his ghost. However, in the Japanese version, Kaiba being dead will be spoken about much more frequently and explicitly. That wasn't all though. Several lines mentioning hell were also removed due to 4Kids feeling that mentioning hell was too taboo for a kids TV show. For example, in the Japanese version, Kaiba sinisterly asked Yugi, "Shall we go together to hell?" And this was replaced with something completely different in the English release. That's all for this time though, but part 4 will be coming soon, taking a look at the next episode and more.
So this is the last one. Daddy's guy.
Welcome to part 4 of Censored Gaming's video series, taking a look at how YuGiOh Duel Monsters was censored in the US by English localizers for kids, due to reasons such as wanting to target a younger audience. In today's video, we'll be only taking a look at a single episode, episode 10, as there's a lot to go through. Episode 10 is titled Blue Eyes White Dragon's Counterattack over in Japan, and sees Yugi's duel with the duelist known as Ghost Kaiba continue. Like last time, this episode also alters dialogue numerous times to turn out the fact that Kaiba has supposedly died and that Yugi's opponent is apparently his ghost. The Japanese version will speak about Kaiba's supposed death much more often. For example, in this line from the Japanese version, Yugi asks if Kaiba is really dead. This line was completely removed in the English version and Yugi says nothing at all instead. Next up is a change to the popular spell card Spellbinding Circle, which was renamed from its Japanese name Curse of the Hexagram. This was likely to remove references to hexagrams and possible religious connotations that they may have, with the localizers not wanting to offend anybody over in the West. Interestingly, the card's animation whilst it's on the field did not have the hexagram removed, despite the real life card game removing the hexagram over in the West and most other uses of this symbol in the anime being removed as well. Following that, we have the true identity of Yugi's opponent being revealed, and there are some big differences between the English and Japanese version. Firstly, the Japanese version gives him the name Puppeteer of the Dead, whilst the English version gives him no name at all. Instead, the English version creates a new story for him, saying that he is the evil part part of Kyber that Yugi previously sent to the Shadow Realm. The Japanese version, however, just says that he was hired by Pegasus to duel in the tournament and to disguise himself as Kyber. All of this relates to a plot point that isn't brought up as much in the dub, where Pegasus hired people to ensure that only 4 finalists could reach Pegasus Castle. This is something we'll go into more in future episodes, but for Puppeteer of the Dead, this plot point was removed completely, and instead 4Kids invented a new story for him, where he's the evil part of Kyber that Yugi previously sent to the Shadow Realm. Moving on, next we have, like the previous episode, 4Kids altering multiple scenes showing Pegasus goons to remove their guns. This episode handled this in various ways. The first shot simply painted away the guns from their hands. The next shot, showing the gang storm inside the building, however, also completely removed 2 of the guards, as well as removing the guns from the remaining guards. But interestingly, if you play the scene in slow motion, you'll notice that some of the guns were missed from a few of the English frames. Another shot painted away the guns, as well as parts of the guards' arms to disguise the change. And then another shot also altered some of the animation, as well as removing the guns, these being just a few examples of how guns were censored in this episode. More changes were made to religious references, with Yugi's monster Mystical Elf, or as it's known in Japan, Holy Elf instead. Also, a brief scene showing Puppeteer of the Dead's head transforming into Pegasus and taunting Yugi was completely removed, perhaps due to being seen as too spooky. Further religious changes were made to the trap card Mirror Force, or as it's known in Japan, Holy Barrier Mirror Force. Another card that was altered for religious reasons is Monster Reborn, which was redesigned over in the West to remove the ancient Egyptian symbol. However, it was also renamed in the English version to remove references to death, with its Japanese name instead being Resurrection of the Dead. Also of note is that in early English episodes like this, the English version for some reason used the name Reborn the Monster instead of Monster Reborn, but this was changed in later episodes. And then Blue Eyes White Dragon's attack name, whilst powered up by Mystical Elf's spell, was also removed in 4Kids version due to, again, religious references. In the original version, the attack name is Holy Burst Stream, with this even being said in English. 4Kids completely removed this, with no substitute being given. Following that, we have Yugi's Mind Crush magical power being censored in the dub, like its use in an earlier episode. The Millennium Puzzle allows Yugi to Mind Crush opponents who either lose or cheat in a shadow game. Whilst this can inflict a range of punishments, in this episode it is used to kill the Puppeteer of the Dead. Yugi's Mind Crush ability isn't mentioned in the dub, and instead the whole thing was replaced with Yugi somehow sending the duelists back to the Shadow Realm. The Shadow Realm was a completely new concept invented by 4Kids to normally disguise the fight that characters have or could die. In this sense, it's a little like the Dragon Ball franchise's The Next Dimension censorship, which replaced death with being sent to the next dimension. The Shadow Realm is something we'll go much more into in later episodes, but for now, lastly, for episode 10, is a change made to Pegasus Wine Glass, or Fruit Juice Glass as it's changed to in the dub. When the glass shatters, it is only in the Japanese version on the left where you can see the liquid running down his hand. In the English version, it was removed, most likely due to looking too much like blood. That's all for this time though, but part 5 will be coming soon. Take a look at the next episode and more. If this is something you're interested in, then please make sure to subscribe and leave a comment below, and until next time, thank you for watching.
Alright guys, that was pretty cool. So we just watched 1 to 10. I mean, that was pretty awesome. What was your favorite thing from 1 to 10? Would you watch the Japanese version? I would definitely watch the Japanese version. Let me know if you're gonna do that. Again, follow me on all social media. Instagram, TheLourdeLovesYou. Follow me on Twitter, OsirisLourde. Follow me on Twitch, DuelLinks. If you're here, you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe. I'm gonna be dropping a lot of nice content, a lot of interesting stuff, a lot of reactions, a lot of pack openings and things.